Let's see. Can we be heard? Can the analytics den be heard? Indeed. Okay. Alright, guys, so I'm going to be gone for the next 3 days. So this is just kind of like the last little live to give all of you guys. But, yeah. This is just kind of what I'm going to be doing. Until then, and I might be in and out for the next couple weeks because I will be doing a little bit of a vacation. So that's just kind of what I'm going to be. So, what up, guys? Yeah. Okay, here. I'm going to phrase this better. Next couple of days, I am going to be gone. 3 days to be exact. I will be back on Saturday. But, during that time, I will be preparing some videos. First off, I'm going to give, I'm going to be doing film review on Lee McNeil, Ifitu Melifuanu, or Iffy, Derek Barnes, and then Jamar Jefferson. Then, of course, my next video, it's just going to be talking about the preseason, because by the time I actually get those videos done, that's when that will be out. And then I'll give my, I guess, roster predictions, or my little review of the preseason games, and how I think, stock up, stock down deal, and give my own little analysis. So let's get started. Here's how I think we'll go with the first 4 teams. So first off, we start week 1. It's going to be an interesting game, in my opinion. It is the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be kind of very telling. Here, I will share the screen. So the first team is the San Francisco 49ers. And so I'm not going to be giving my prediction. I've already done prediction videos, but I'm going to talk about the Lions' plan of attack for the first 4 games. Because I already talked about how the other teams are going to attack us, but not how we are going to attack them. So, San Francisco. So let's look at their team, at their depth chart. What are their weaknesses? What is something that their offense has a weak point in? The Lions will try to exploit. Well, for one, they have an interesting quarterback in Jimmy Garoppolo, who doesn't need struggle under pressure. So, of course, like every game, the Lions will be focusing heavily on pressure. I assume blitzing will be a lot more heavy. Of course, it also depends. I think the big game plan will be to stop Raheem Mostert and, of course, George Kittle. These are really good players, but, of course, it's still something that you will have to look out for. You can't stop George Kittle, but you can maybe stop Raheem Mostert, and that can lower the amount of times Kittle can destroy you. Because even if, here, I want to even give you a little bit of a look on George Kittle. He's not unstoppable. He can be stopped. Look at Miami, and maybe even Arizona. He can be stopped, and it's very possible. It's all just a matter of, in my opinion, if you contain the run game and signal and players do their assignments. The next thing is wondering if Michael Dench's last season was a fluke, and can Daniel Brunskill be good? Of course, Trent Williams, and Laken Tomlinson, and Alex Mack is a pretty solid left side. So, what about the defense? How well the defense fare? How will we protect our offense? With game plan for this. So first off, it's going to be kind of simple. It's going to be heavy Taylor Decker, Joe Jackson versus Nick Bosa. I think that's going to completely shut down their pass rush. Eric Ramsey has just continued to struggle in 1v1 situations. Jalen Kinlaw did nothing last year. I'm not scared of Jay Jones. I think the big thing would be focusing on that. After all, I think the big thing is I think this would be a heavy pass game. The San Francisco 49ers have some really good run stuffers. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Samson Beckham, and even some solid run stuffing safeties in Jimmy Ward and Jakarski Tart. Now, you have these weak corners, Mosley, Barrett, Thomas, Dante Johnson, Tim Harris. Not exactly a very strong secondary, and I think the Lions can exploit that with guys like T.J. Hawkinson, Tyler Williams, Amon St. Brown, and of course, another interesting player that I think might factor in is Quintus Cephas. Overall, I think this will be a close game, but if I was going to say who would be the kind of stars for the Lions on both sides of the ball, I think a big star in that game will be Romeo for the defensive side of the ball, maybe Jeff Okudah, and whoever ended up covering, whether it be, and then for the offense, I think the big star will be T.J. Hawkinson. T.J. Hawkinson will probably be the one I think will have a big game, or I think it will be Amon St. Brown. Now, of course, our next thing we're going to be looking at for the San Francisco 49ers, our next team is, I believe it's the Green Bay Packers. It's either Green Bay or Baltimore. Yeah, that's correct. So, the big thing that we have to look at with Green Bay is, all right, is this, for one, what's their depth chart? Right now, it's not looking like Aaron Rodgers is going to play. He's not been doing anything in the offseason. He has refused to be in training camps and anything, so I'm just going to assume he's not going to be playing right now. He even refused to accept his contract extension. If he does play, I'd be very surprised. So right now, I'm going with the assumption that Jordan Love is there. And I think that would probably mean it's going to be a heavy run game with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, and maybe even a little bit of rotation of Kylan Hill. This would lead to, I think, a run, stop Aaron Jones kind of a deal. And I think the big players that would be important in this game would be Tracy Walker, Jamie Collins, and, of course, some outside players and linebackers, such as maybe Jelani Tavai or Derek Barnes. D-line, of course, will have big plays in the run game. I think, for example, Michael Brockers. He's known for being able to be a good run stuffer. Maybe even Lee McNeil. The Lions are a lot more built to stop the run than they ever were in the past. Next is for the offense. So how is it the Lions are going to be able to stop Kenny Clark, the Smith brothers, and the great secondary that the Green Bay Packers have? And personally, I think it's going to be what their weakness has been the last few years, the run game. I do not think this will be a huge passing game. The Lions do not have a player for their passing game. And so I think this will kind of be their game plan. Heavily use Swift, heavily use Jamal Williams, and maybe even rotate Jamar Jefferson and hope that has successfully worked. So heavy play action offense would probably be what goes against the Green Bay Packers. They are not built to stop the run. Now, the next game is the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens would be our plan of attack. I think our plan of attack would, of course, be, for at least for stopping their offense, contain J.K. Dobbins, actually. My big thing with the Baltimore Ravens is Lamar Jackson has statistically struggled in being heavily relied as a passer. Not because he can't pass, because consistent passing leads to him being under pressure. And like most young quarterbacks, struggle under pressure. And unfortunately, that's just been something that stopped him. Not to mention that the Lions actually have done a pretty good job of containing these mobile quarterbacks, such as Kyler Murray the last couple of years. Of course, I'm not saying Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson are equals, but it's something the Lions have done a fairly good job of. So overall, I think the big job will be to stop the guy who had some of the best yards per carry last year and really earned his starting role. And the big question is, what about the receivers? Marcus Brown, Tim Watkins, Rashad Bateman, Andrews. I think I think our corners will be able to handle their targets. The only person I'm not really concerned with is Mark Andrews. Sammy Watkins is only really good in week 1 and is inconsistent. He hasn't really been good since Buffalo, maybe LA. His best year since Buffalo has been LA, and I don't think that's really going to change, considering the fact you have Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. Now, I think that will also kind of lead to maybe having a quarterback spy in Lamar Jackson, probably Jamie Collins or Ty or Tracy Walker. This would lead to the defensive side of the football. Now, how will we contain Derek Wolfe, Calais Campbell, Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphrey, Chuck Clark, Marcus Peters, Deshaun Elliott? All right. And in my opinion, the way they do that is simple. I think the Lions would be a even team. I think this is a team that has a questionable missed tackle rate in Patrick Queen. And I think the run game might be something that might make the Ravens surprisingly struggle. The pass game maybe might have some struggles, but I don't think so. You got Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, Jimmy Smith's all right. And overall, I think that'd be kind of what their plan would be. And going back to the live over here. Oh, what up, Troy? Welcome to the live. How do you see the snap percentage playing out between Swift and Williams, 70-30? Actually, I could see it be like 60-40 or 55. It's actually pretty close because the thing is, Swift has struggled in film with pass blocking. If you watch the live with Avery Giovanni and I and Ram's house, one of the things he talks about is Swift's not a good pass blocker. And Deuce Staley has talked about how you can't play for him if you can't block. And so my big thing is that's something he'll do. And that could lead to less snaps, considering the fact Jamal Williams is one of the better running back blockers. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. To be fair, he was a rookie, and you can't expect perfection. Swift was great at running and catching, so now that he's got more power, who knows? Maybe he'll be a better blocker. Now, moving on for week 4, for the final week, the Detroit Lions' final game is the Chicago Bears. How will we face off against the Chicago Bears? How are we going to beat them? I don't know. It could be any play, but my biggest thing is, I think we got better. My big thing is, I think the main guy I would be focusing on was David Montgomery. Well, I do think David Montgomery is overrated. He's gotten some good games. Getting 8 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards is definitely still good. And 4.3 yards per carry is respectable, especially with how bad the O-line is. Well, can be. But if you look here, here's my biggest struggle with David Montgomery. He did nothing. Absolutely nothing till Green Bay. It was until the final 6 games of the season for him to actually do something. And one of them was against the poor Lions defense. That's pretty sad. But overall, I don't know, like all these were bad run defense teams. The Lions, the Packers, the Texans, the Jags, the Packers again. I don't know Minnesota's run defense ranks, but I do know their defense did struggle last year. So overall, I think the goal would be to stop David Montgomery. I do not believe Andy Dalton's that good of a quarterback. Of course, apply pressure to him. The only lineman that really, I think, impresses me is James Daniels and Tevin Jenkins. And I think the Lions line will actually pick apart this offense. Defensively, the double teams will. I think, of course, the Lions will have someone such as Penei Sewell versus Khalil Mack, and I think since Crosby can shut down, if Tyrell Crosby can shut down Khalil Mack, and Matt Nelson can shut down Khalil Mack, I expect Penei Sewell to be able to shut down Khalil Mack. And I think so perhaps maybe they'll double team Akeem Hicks. And yeah, and I think they'll pick apart this secondary. I've already talked about why I think Jaden Johnson's overrated. This guy had an over 100 quarterback rating, bunch of yards with 5 touchdowns. Desmond Trufant, we all know why he struggled last year. Tease Tabor is literally on their cornerback core. That's a really sad secondary. All they got is a safety core. And Roquan Smith. That's it. And none of their linemen other than Akeem Hicks is better than any of ours. So personally, I think the Lions line will have a field day with their line. I think the only linebacker worth note for our passing coverage is Roquan Smith. Danger Lathan's good for run stuffing. Quinn is not the same player. He's seeming washed. Jaden Johnson is in good coverage. The passing game will pick them apart. I expect it. The Cam Akers injury. And yeah, it's kind of from the type of what I think will be the game plan for the Lions for the first 4 weeks. I thought I'll do that since I'm going to be gone for a while. I'll be back on Saturday, but yeah. Next question. Oh, we got a question from Troy. Cam Akers injury increases our chance of that Rams pick being better. If Donald or Ramsey or Stafford get injured, this pick could be pretty early. That is for sure. Thing, especially since Stafford does have an injury history. I'd be very surprised if Donald or Ramsey gets hurt. Knock on wood. I'm wanting Stafford to have that super year after all we've been through. But I would not mind it if the Rams suck. Because if the Lions suck or we are good, either way we're getting either an additional top 10 pick or top 15 pick. Or if we have a fantastic year and the Rams suck, we still get a top 10 pick. But we also somehow get to the playoffs. That'll be fantastic for us. What a win scenario. Man, yeah. It's so funny to me that we drafted this guy. I mean, this guy was. Ay. What a disaster of a draft pick. He was solid in coverage in college. I mean, 9 receptions. Oh, that's so weird. My Tabor just sucked. I mean, look how bad he was in the NFL. I mean, ugh, not showing you guys. Like, just so you guys know, this guy had a 143.3 quarterback rating, 3 touchdowns allowed. That sucks. I don't know. He's just someone who worries me up. So now I can go on ahead and take your questions and whatever, because I see that there's 2 viewers in here, and I can talk for you guys for a bit. But I'm not going to be doing too late. It's kind of late for me, and I just kind of did this because I don't want to leave you guys in the dark as to why I'm not posting. So if you guys want to talk Lions football or whatever, because I'm sure there's something to talk about. There always is when it comes to Lions. But, yeah, Lions. A real possibility exists for the Rams pick before the Lions, and this becomes the best trade of all time. Very, very true. The Rams have a poor line. They lost Cam Akers, and if they lose Matthew Stafford, or even Aaron Donald, I really think it might really hurt the team's chances of actually being the Super Bowl team that they're supposed to be. And after all, that would make us look really good. Especially, I think what would make the deal look good is if Jared Goff looks good. Because Matthew Stafford can go ahead and play good. Or it's already, a good pick if we get the 2 first rounders. But it's kind of often that happens for these franchise quarterback trades. Trading much. I mean, people talk about trading 3 firsts for Watsons. So you gotta. So I'm not too surprised. It's a Jared Goff looks good. So you're telling me there's a chance. There's very much a chance. Troy put it really well. The division they play in is so hard. You got San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona. That's a hard division, especially with all the hype that's coming to each team. Seattle, they got Russell Wilson, They drafted Dwayne Eskridge, who was a draft darling for just about everyone. Chris Carson returning. Another year of Rashad Penny. Tyler Lockett with another year. DK Metcalf with another year of development. You got to add those guys in for Wilson. Watch out. Wilson's going to be scary. Arizona, they bring in J.J. Watt. They bring in A.J. Green. Kyler Murray with another year of development. And improved O-line with the addition of Rodney Hudson. And, of course, you go to San Francisco. They got Joey Bosa returning. They got their team completely healthy. They got Deebo Samuel here, Brandon Ayuk. They got George Kittle, Raheem Mostert, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's pretty successful at winning games. The only thing I think that's going to hold them back is actually their defense, but I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Everyone made the excuse about 100 rushes for Stafford. Akers' injury does not help that. I think Stafford's just cursed when it comes to run players. I mean, Jahav at best, he was good, injury issues. Amir Abdullah, when he was at least solid, injury issues. Reggie Bush, injured, and he was never the same. Maybe, but you also got to remember that the Rams have Darnell Henderson, and he's actually a pretty solid running back. I mean, he had 4.5 yards per carry, 5 rushing touchdowns, 624 rushing yards, 138 attempts. That's pretty good. And he even had a game where he had a really good game versus the Buffalo Bills. 114 yards, 5.7 after carrying 1 rushing touchdown. And even in the game before that against Philly, he was pretty dang good. So he's a solid back, but he's nowhere near Cam Akers' level. I think a potential replacement option could be Bell, but that's going to be interesting. Well, yeah, but that's every injury. It's just like, let's see, what's a good example? It's just like losing any other star and having to resort to your backup. It's still a good backup, but I still think Darnell Henderson is someone who's still a good running back. Darnell Henderson was actually a player I really liked in his draft and during the draft process. And he didn't play bad necessarily. It's just Cam Akers was crazy last year. Cam Akers had like a 200 total yard game, whatever, last year. Let's see, what was it? I know he had like a really big breakout game. It was 171 rushing yards versus New England, and that was like his breakout game. So why is ESPN saying our line is 29th? Are we that bad? No, ESPN's just dumb and they're... Okay, so the way ESPN did it was they rated it off of pass rush win rate and run block win rate. Not sacks allowed, pressures allowed, pancakes, how good the running backs played, the holes opened up. It's just pass block win rate and run block win rate. And by that metric, Aaron Donald would literally be one of the worst run stuffing defense tackles in football. Rams House talked about that versus Avery Giovanni. Our own line is top 10 right now. It was 13th with Tyler Crosby. Now we have Sewell. There is no way that our line is 29th. Exactly. The Rams lost a top 4 player on the team before the preseason. Yep. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. To be fair, there is free agents available, but it's going to be interesting. The only liking is poor due to calculation. Also rates rookies evenly, so Sewell gets a fail grade. Exactly. It's flawed and stupid and dumb. It's just ridiculous. It it gets me really mad that they would actually rank us at 29th because does it you can't be 29th with as good of a left side as we have. Taylor Decker, Jackson, and Ragnow. Somehow that's going to get 29th. You get a top 10 left tackle, the number one center in football, and a guy who made all rookie teams, the left guard, and we're 29th. That makes sense. What's our strongest and weakest position groups? So our strongest position groups, I would say, are running back, O-line, and D-line. Our weakest position groups is safety, kicker, and I would argue receiver. But I actually do like our receiver core, so I'm actually going to move it to linebacker. I know everyone else kind of makes fun of our receiver core, but I like our receiver core. So the reason I say our strongest is O-line, D-line, and running back core is, first off, running back core. Swift, Williams, that's one of the best running back duos in football. And you got to remember, then, you also have Jamar Jefferson. Jamar Jefferson averaged, let's see, let me pull it up, and I shared it on Discord one time. It's not what I wanted. I don't even know who was. If we go there, Jamar Jefferson averaged 143 rushing yards per game as a junior in 2020. That's fourth best in the FBS. That is insane. That's our third running back. And then, our line, Taylor Decker, top 10 left tackle. And I would argue top 6. Frank Ragnow, ranked number 1 by NFL executives, coaches, and scouts as a center. Joan Jackson, all rookie teams, played amazingly well for a rookie, despite the fact he played over 1,000 snaps. Now you add in Penei Sewell, who's supposed to be this big-time next-generation tackle prospect. Fantastic. D-line. The reason... Okay, it depends on what your definition of D-line is, but I'm going to go with the front 7. Or in other words, adding in the outside linebackers. Because in the 3-4 outside linebackers are kind of used more like the ends. But if you have Romeo Okwara, Julian Okwara, Trey Flowers, Michael Brockers, Lee McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, Deshaun Hand, and John Pennicini, that's a scary team. Not even mention there's a possibility of Charles Harris. Charles Harris is still a first-round draft pick. He's at least a player who's had talent. That's a good group. And then for our final strength, well, what was my final strength for this? Yeah, that was my final strength for the team. Then for the weak position groups, the reason I put safety is Tracy Walker is the only safety that's had any form of production. And he had a down season last year. So it's unknown how he'll do. Bill Harris has never been good in his NFL career. Dean Marlowe's had one good game in his career that really popped off, and a couple other really good plays that made him a fan favorite in Buffalo. So really unproven safety core. Then you have our you have our kicker, Randy Bullock. Not exactly the best kicker in football. He's been let go by teams for a reason, and that really worries me. I'm really hoping that he proves me wrong, but I'm not confident in Randy Bullock, and I think he might cost us some games. And ironically, we did change our kickers with the Bengals, so that's kind of funny. They took our kick. We took Sewell. They took our kicker. Next is, in terms of weak position groups, I'm going to say linebacker again. Linebackers were questionable after Jamie Collins. Tavai has only been good for his rookie year. He wasn't elite or great. He was good. And then, of course, you also have question marks of Barnes, a rookie. Sean Dion Hamilton. After that, you don't even know who's really going to be the linebacker after those 3. Is it going to be Sean Dion Hamilton, Alex Anzalone? Who's going to be there? That's kind of my thing with the weaknesses. We don't have depth at the linebacker position. I think we got talent, but not depth. And I think that's going to hurt us in the long run. Where do you see us finishing the division this year? Third or fourth? Neither. With Aaron Rodgers not playing, I think we're second. Where's Jalen Reeves? Maybe. Oh, well, I'm not going to mention every linebacker, but I don't think Jalen Reeves maybe has a role much more in special teams. That's kind of where Dan Campbell talked about him in press conferences, and he's been completely outshined. And the one thing he's actually been good at as a starter is in coverage. Like Sean Dion Hamilton. Not to mention Alex Anzoni has also outshined him apparently too. And he's just not been historically good as a run stuffer. So I think he makes it as a special teams guy, nothing more. But nonetheless, continuing with Troy's thing, if Aaron Rodgers is not playing in Green Bay, I fully believe that we're going to be a second team in the division. We got a good run game. We got a top 10 line. I think we got ourselves a top 13 front seven. I think we got ourselves a great secondary with Jeff Okuda, the feet too. Quentin Dunbar, Corn Elder. I think that's pretty dang good cornerback core. I think you also. So here's my thing. I think our cornerback core is really underrated. First off, Quentin Dunbar was elite in 2019, and he was good in 2018. Not elite, but good. The only reason he was bad in Seattle is because Seattle's defense has no pass rush, and he was injured. Terrible defensive play calling, in my opinion, as well. Then you have Amanio. We've already talked about why I think Amanio is completely underrated. Guy had better stats than Marcus Peters, Byron Jones, Richard Sherman. I mean, it's insane. Not to mention the fact that we drafted a P2, Alfawanu. And I like P2. Cornelder, I think, will be a good slot. And I think Okuda can have a bounce back here. The guy's been doing great at practices. I've lost hope that Rodgers leaving. I think he would have been gone by now. I disagree. He just I don't know if you've heard the news, Troy, but Aaron Rodgers declined a 2-year extension by the Green Bay Packers that would have made him the most paid quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he wants to be there. He's not been attending OTAs, training camps, and now he's denied himself an extension with the Green Bay Packers that would have given him the money that he's been claiming to want. That seems to me that he does not want to be with the Green Bay Packers. That does not seem to mean that he's going to be playing. Now, granted, he could. But I think the only reason he hasn't been traded is out of the pure arrogance of the Green Bay Packers front office. They don't want anyone else to have Aaron Rodgers, so that way they can't lose games. That's my personal theory with it. Just kind of like what the Houston Texans were doing with Deshaun Watson. Rodgers is the guy who doesn't talk to his own family over. I can't wait to see how this develops. Very true. Like, Aaron Rodgers is always a drama queen. But even with Aaron Rodgers, I think we're a better team than Minnesota and Chicago. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Minnesota, while I think they have a pretty explosive offense, I do not like their defense. I think the Lions will have a better defense. And I think we can match. I think we can have a good running game. Just like Minnesota. Not with Dalvin Cook good. I think it can still be a good run game. And I think our pass game is going to surprise people. I'm going to be making a video on that soon, too, as well. Why we should stop hating on our receiver core. But just for kind of like simplify it. Just to simplify it, we got guys who can do everything. We got Tyrell, all-around guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown, versatile, can do outside, slot, gadget plays, everything. Contested catches, yak. Separation. Cephas, contested catch guy who can also get himself some separation. Hawkinson, we all know what Hawkinson can do. Got speedsters like Perriman. Big speedster that can do a Perriman. I really like our receiver core. I don't trust him sitting out when he's this old. Maybe. And he honestly might retire from what I've heard. He's talked about saying he might just retire. I don't know. Minnesota is pretty good, but they are losing some of their players, so you may be right. My big thing is they have a terrible O-line, man. Terrible. Their best lineman, I think, is Garrett Bradbury. Hold up. I think it's Garrett Bradbury. Minnesota Vikings. Depth. Right now, in terms of provability, not counting Christian Darrisaw because he's an unproven mid-round rookie. Their best lineman is Garrett Bradbury. Brian O'Neill's been moved to tackle after being successful at guard. Ezra Cleveland's had his meh. As a Boise fan, I really hope he succeeds, and I like him, but he's struggled. Dakota Dozier, nobody. Questionable line. Their defense, Elvin Tomlinson, Daniel Hunter, great. Eric Hendricks, he's good. Barr, overrated. Virgil, won't do anything. Chesserat, we'll see what happens. I thought it was kind of he's a player I liked in the draft process, but I don't think he's going to be dominant year one. And that secondary, Patrick Pearson has been good for like 3 years. Dancer's been is had an in and out rookie year. Mackenzie Alexander, like he was let go by Cincinnati. Harrison Smith and Xavier Woods, good safety duo. I don't know. I don't like their team as much as other people do. But I don't know. All right, guys. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to end the live here. I know I just got the 5 viewers, but I'm gonna be waking up at 5 in the morning tomorrow, so I kind of need to get my sleep and rest. Um, put some video comments ideas on what you guys think I should do. Right now, I plan on doing an Ali McNeil film video, the Fitu film video, Derek Barnes film video, and Jamar Jefferson film video, and why you should underrate our receiver video. And yeah, like put that in the comments, and I'll look at them. And yeah, see you guys. Yep, oh, I agree. Yeah, thanks. Love you guys. Bye.